Okay, Hare Krishna. I think today we'll have good reception. I'm at my place. In the future, I'll try to avoid being in Vṛndāvana on Sundays or Wednesday. I hardly go there anyway. Okay. Reading from the Caitanya-caritamrta Madhya-līlā, chapter 8, text 293. Did you give me those tissues?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's okay. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nigūḍha vrajera rasa-līlāra vicāra aneka kahila tāra pāra. The conversation between Rāmānanda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu contained the most confidential subject matters, touching the conjugal love between Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa in Vṛndāvana, Vrajabhūmi. Although they talked at great length about these pastimes, they cannot reach the limit of discussion. Om Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksur Udmalatam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You know, I can't think of a place I would rather be than Govardhan. And I can't think of any activity I'd rather do than chant Hare Krishna. But I will be leaving on Tuesday for South India for a Ayurvedic thing. I wanted to do that once in my life. And last year, as soon as I got there, the day I got there, I got COVID. I got before, but as soon as I arrived, they tested me, I had COVID, and I was isolated and served by people with hazmat suits. But Ayurveda is to make the sick healthy and the healthy healthier. So I guess, fortunately, I'm in that second category. So then, of course, we got our Puri Yatra. We have every room in the retreat center full. And we also have the very nice Russian group. One lady organizes it, and they arrange their own things. And we're bringing definitely some of the best kirtaniers in the world. I think we have 3 out of the top 5 Mridanga players in the world. Close, really. And some wonderful kirtaniers. And and then we'll go to Vṛndāvana and Govardhan. Retreats. You know, the whole, the way bhakti works is when you absorb yourself in God, you begin to feel God. And feeling God is feeling yourself. Because what we are is we're servants of God, and that's a feeling. We're a particular type of consciousness. And that's the goal. That's why it says the spiritual master finds the ways and means to engage the disciple in devotional service. Rupa Goswami mentions in the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that the main principle of devotional service is to remember Krishna and not to forget him. So, and that's why we have a sadhana, a practice. Patanjali describes practice as concentration over a period of time without any interruption and in the right mood. So the practice is absorption and the goal is absorption. And that's what was described here in this dialogue. And I think most of you have heard it already. The topmost verse is this ultimate reality of love. The ultimate reality is the most intense love, because the ultimate reality is love. Love makes the world go round. Rasa-līlāra. It's this exchange between Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa. Krishna being the Shaktiman, the possessor of energies, and Rādhā being the Purna Shakti, the complete Shakti. And Shakti means love, because Shakti or energy comes from a source to please its source. And what is pleasure? Pleasure is love. So Radharani is the full manifestation of love. And therefore it's the perfection is this complete merging of hearts in devotion. And that's our goal. And therefore we practice concentration. And when we do, then we awaken the soul. And that's the feeling that we want. Happiness is not just the external activities around us. It's the consciousness we have. And when you have the proper consciousness, it doesn't matter that much what the external activities are. I always quote this Jewish lady mystic. Her name is Iti Hellesen in the concentration camp, where she said, if you have an inner life, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. So we're seeking this inner life, and we're doing it by hearing these dialogues. They make an impression on the consciousness. They stain the consciousness with the right thoughts and feelings. We have to alter our consciousness. And altering the consciousness means to be concentrated and focused. That's what altering the consciousness is. Altering the consciousness is meditation. Because what meditation does is it focuses on one thing and neglects all the transformations and the other things. So we want to alter the consciousness. And that's what trance means. Trance means you're focused on one thing, and it changes the consciousness. And we don't want to be here, because here is where all the anxiety is. Here is where that's the false ego, which means the desires, the ambitions, the anger, the embarrassment, everything else that goes through our minds. So, and that's why things what we're doing here is now, because we're focused, we're concentrated. It alters the consciousness, and therefore the anxiety we have of living on that platform of the body and the relationships we have and the problems we have. So we are focused here, and we're hearing that the goal is that focus. And that's why in this dialogue between Rāmānanda Roy and Lord Caitanya was saying many things were external. They were external to the ultimate state of focus, which is the soul, which is that the consciousness of the soul. And we learn in Bhagavad Gita that was such an inspirational verse for Prabhupada. Vivasayat mika budhe ekeha kurunandana. Bahushaka yanantasya. That devotion means vivasayat mika budhi, that our intelligence is focused on the soul. Vivasayat mika budhi ekeha kurunanda. Ekeha, one, bahushaka. And if you're not, it's so many branched. And we have to live in that world. So anyway, it describes this ultimate verse of the ultimate absorption. And then in the dialogue, Rāmānanda Roy expresses some question, because when he's looking at Lord Chaitanya, he's somehow or other seeing this threefold bending form, and then kind of, I guess it's called a spurti. Spurti means like a flash. You get just like a flash of realization. As you flash, it's like he's seeing Krishna, and then he's seeing the luster, this golden luster. And he kind of asks Lord Chaitanya, what is this? What is this luster? What is this kind of vision I have? And Lord Chaitanya said, well, you're a Mahabhagavat. You're the topmost devotee. And topmost devotee, you see God everywhere. It's not just a vision of seeing, it's how you feel. Just like in the Shikshastakam, it says one should chant in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one could chant constantly. But what is that? Is it an intellectual adjustment? It's a feeling of the heart. But when you actually chant the verse and you actually think of the verse and you're actually saying these type of things, what you're actually doing is it is touching that platform. Because that platform is the soul is the servant of God. So you're acting in the service of God. And you begin to feel that platform. So he's saying you're a Mahabhagavat. You're feeling that way. It's just like Prabhupada. It says that a pure devotee has to come down to the platform of madhya-lila to preach. What does that mean? It means that on the highest platform, you're feeling in a particular way. It's not an intellectual thing. Well, the grass is this, I'm that. You're feeling in that way, and it becomes your lens. And that's the devotional feeling. You're feeling very, very humble. And then, but you can't act on that platform if you're a teacher, because you have to make distinctions. So it says, coming to the platform of madhya-lila, you make distinctions. So I mean, the distinctions could always be there on the intellectual platform. You're not trying to figure out, one should chant thinking oneself low in the store in the street. Yeah, there can be some intellectual thing, but it's more this wonderful mood of devotion. Mood of devotion means you feel God, you see God, and you want to be in that platform. So Rāmānanda Roy, he had this. So he's saying, Lord Chaitanya says, you know what that is? You're just like a Mahabhagavat. You're just seeing God everywhere. And then then Rāmānanda Roy said, no, that's not really what's going on. It's not me. It's not my consciousness. It's the abject reality that this is who you are. And then Lord Chaitanya actually confirms it by showing him. And there's two things here. There's Rasaraj and there's Mahabhav. Rasaraj means the king of relishing love, and Mahabhav means the highest love. And the complete enjoyment of love is being both Rasaraj and Mahabhav. It's being the relisher of love and being the abode of love. And this is the complete ultimate reality. And this is what Lord Chaitanya is. Radha, Krishna, Chaitanya, he's non-different. So he shows him that. He shows him that and he tells him that I've adopted the mind or the mood and the form or the luster of Sri Radha to relish my personal sweetness. I may be very sweet, but there's the other that relishes it. So I want to be that other person to relish it. So he says, so I've adopted this form or this luster and this mood. And the interesting thing about that, and this was my realization, is that experience of God. This is my real main takeaway from this story. The experience of God eternally, of relishing himself, and the feelings of love, and the experience of God's sweetness, the experience of love of God, and the experience of the happiness one feels when God loves one. Those experiences that God wants, that Sri Radha has. She's tasting Krishna's sweetness. She's enjoying the happiness of Krishna's sweetness. She's enjoying the love of Krishna, and she's enjoying the happiness she feels when she's experiencing Krishna's love. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna adopting that mind and body, that mood and that luster. But here's the takeaway for us. He's not only adopting that feeling for himself, that's the internal reason for his cause, the antaranga hetu, the internal reason for his appearance is to relish that. And the bahiranga hetu, the external reason, the reason he came for others, is to give that. What is God giving us? This is what the Krishna consciousness movement's about. What is God giving us? He's giving us his own bhakti that he's experiencing. God wants to experience bhakti. And in the form of Chaitanya, it's his own bhakti. He gets to play that role and experience that. That's called swabhakti swayam. Swayam means the treasure, swabhakti, of my own bhakti. And in the Rupa Goswami and the Vidagdha Madhava, this drama he wrote, one of the introductory verses that I repeat many, many times says, Anarpita, never before given, charim charat, for a very long time. Anarpita charim charat karunaya, by his mercy, vitirna kala, in this age of Kali, what? Samarpyatam unatojvala rasam, this brilliant, this unatojvala, this brilliant mood of what? Swabhakti swayam, of his own bhakti. And that makes everything fair. because in one sense, it takes away the envy, because God's giving us the thing that's his treasure. The same treasure. God has a treasure of his own bhakti. Samarpyatam unatoj rasam swabhakti swayam. And he's giving that. And that has to be our goal. And therefore we have to hear about it. And it's a treasure. It's a real treasure. And we somehow have to organize our lives somehow that we get that treasure. Because that prema pumartha mahan. Artha means value. What has the greatest value is that. The greatest value is consciousness. Not everybody can have the same things, but everybody can have the same consciousness. So that's the goal. And that's what we want to achieve, and we have to hear about it. Because when you hear about it, and then you practice it, and you get in our intermediate periods of just a drop of it, then we realize that that's the goal. And when you realize a goal and you realize the value of a goal, then three things happen. Utsahan, you become enthusiastic for it. Nishchayat, Daryat, Nishchayat, you develop faith in it. And Daryat, you're patient. Because if something's really good, then you sacrifice for it. Something's really good, you sacrifice for it. I know people go to medical school, they sacrifice for it. People become great sports stars, they sacrifice for it because they have faith in the goal. But the problem is they have the faith in the wrong goal. And that's the greatest tragedy. The greatest tragedy is when you have the wrong goal. Because you have the wrong goal, two things happen. One, everyone can't attain it. That's a tragedy. I'm not America's or India's, next talent or next model or Forbes billionaire or whatever. There's the elite. There's few people. And then when you get it, because it's not consciousness, it's things, then you just try to get more and more of something that doesn't satisfy you, and you never remain satisfied. But consciousness is something that everybody can have. So bhakti siyam, it's a treasure. Siya means treasure. Artha means wealth. It's a wealth, it's a treasure. And therefore, we have that story of Mukunda that I tell. When Lord Chaitanya says, I won't see you for millions of births, he was happy. He thought he was getting a bargain. And that type of faith is what brought him, immediately gave him the goal. So anyway, it's kind of nice. This is kind of high stuff, and they're relishing it and they're discussing it because there's no difference between your attraction for chanting and hearing and your level of devotion. So it is devotion. So when you have that devotion and you have that pleasure and service to God, then you have pleasure in hearing about God. And So somehow or other, Rāmānanda Roy just begged, let me stay for 10 more days. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, you could spend the rest of the life discussing this. And then they had these discussions. And here it mentions that the discussions were na, pāila, pāra, kahila, aneka, kahila. They spoke various things and about the pastimes, and they didn't reach the limit. When we think of material things, because it's under certain laws, we think of limits. But when you think of God, you can't think of a limit. Because you think of a limit, then it's not God. Definition of God is that being of which no greater can be conceived. So if you think of a limit, it's not God. If you think of any restriction, it's not God. So there can't be any restriction on his activities and his pastimes. Even though our mind works in material terms, has some limit on things. That's impossible. How can you go? But no. I mean, just in a cursory way, when I was reading that commentary once, and I told you it described the kirtan of the cowherd boys. I wrote about that. And it described tan anurupam, something like that. I forgot what the word was. Appropriate. The kirtan must be appropriate. And the commentators said, appropriate means the kirtan would accompany different leelas. And there would be appropriate kirtans for different leelas. And they gave that example of the cowherd boys in the forest and the wind blowing Krishna's dhoti. And they saw his form. And they were so excited. Their friend is so handsome. It could be like that, like a sports figure, is just, has like the perfect body or something, and you could admire that. You may be a fan. So they saw her, and then they had a festival, and they composed appropriate songs. So there's no limit. There's no limit. In fact, I remember when one time I came back from India, and all these 47 years I've been here, one time I got a quit India notice. And I had to leave India for 6 months. There was 2 Kartiks I've missed in 47 years. COVID and the quit India notice. But I didn't have any money, I didn't even have a car. So one congregation member in New Jersey gave me a car. I'm very thankful for it, but it was a lemon. I don't know if you use that phrase, but this car must have been a car that was like submerged in the ocean, because it was just breaking in so many ways and things like that. But I met the father of this person. And it's funny, this person was like an engineer, respectable, and his father was like a hippie. Kind of interesting guy. And he was staying in Mayapur for some time. And for Prabhupada's centennial, he composed something like 1,008 melodies of the Hare Krishna mantra. Krishnadas, Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji knew thousands of beats on the mridanga. And the beats are talking Krishna's lila and Krishna's mood. So there's no limit. And you go deeper and deeper. And people, you can also have that experience in studying Shastra. I sometimes have experience of seeing things that I've never seen before and I've never heard before. Just like, and always deeper and deeper meanings. And of course, why is it deeper and deeper meanings? Because you're dealing with God. The books are God. It's not just ink and paper, it's God. It's God in sound. It's God in philosophy. It's God in story. And God can talk and he can reveal. And that's why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I heard this from Narayan Maharaj actually, he was explaining, he would pray to each word and volumes of meaning would come out. There's like 150 verses of the rasa-līlā, but there are thousands and thousands of books. There are thousands and thousands of books because more and more things are revealed. And that's the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And that's why, as I mentioned many times, you're not going to get I mentioned there's 3 verses on Raganuga Bhakti. Because there's not going to be elaborate descriptions. It's going to be a practice of Krishna consciousness. That's why it's very simple in one sense. You practice pure devotional service and things are revealed. They're revealed. That's Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam Dadami Buddhi. For those who worship me with faith, I give them the knowledge by which they come to me. So there's revelation. Of course, there's also philosophy, but philosophy is for revelation. That's described in the Bhagavad Gita. The verse before Tesham Satata Yuktanam is Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Vatasarvam Pavartate Iti Buddha Bhajanti Mam Buddha Bhava Samabhita. I am the source of the material and spiritual worlds. The wise who know this engage in my devotional service. So the philosophy gives you faith. The philosophy gives you direction to practice devotional service and understand Krishna. But then when you do, then it's Tesham Satata Yuktanam. Satatam, always, Yuktanam. Bhajatam, pretty poor, with love, you do worship. And then what happens? Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tvam. And of course there are challenges. Of course there are challenges. Because we're being purified. And what are we being purified of? We're being purified of the desire to not want to be a devotee. We're conditioned that way. But by hearing and practicing, we become more and more convinced, become more and more fixed, become more and more enthusiastic. And then we begin to see the challenges that come to us is just God making circumstances for us to fully depend on him more and get deeper into Krishna consciousness. So these conversations, and they contain the most confidential, and they went on. And then there's a beautiful analogy here that describes the whole Rāmānanda Samvad. It says, Tama, Kansa, Rupa, Sona, Ratna, Chinchamani, Kehayati, Kahampota, Paya, Ekakani. Actually, these conversations are like a great mine where from a single place, one can extract all kinds of metals, copper, beryl metals, silver, and gold, and also touchstone, the basis of all metals. So it's a gradation of value in those metals. So this whole conversation, they were all jewels, they were all valuable, but still there was a gradation of realizations. And it's all in one place. That's what he's saying. He's saying, Kahan, Pota, all these metals are somewhere buried, Eka Kani, in one place. So in one place, the whole philosophy of spiritual life, of devotion, is mentioned. Until it comes to it says the basis of all metals, the Ratna Chintamani, the Ratna, the jewel, that Chintamani, it can fulfill all desires. And of course, what he's referring to is actually understanding your relationship with Krishna. There's so many other practices that can purify you, and they're valuable. And he mentioned it, from doing your duty to renouncing your duty, to giving the fruits of your activities to Krishna. These are all jewels in human life. To actually coming to the platform of being fixed in devotion, to coming to the platform of understanding a relationship with Krishna. And that's what we have to pray for. We really have to pray for understanding our relationship with Krishna, because love is most profoundly manifest through relationship. So we have a relationship with God. That's why the deity is so nice. You can have a relationship with God. You can serve God. And that's where love is. But ultimately, Ratna Chintamani is a jewel that fulfills all the desires in your heart. Krame utayate shea utama vastupai ayache prashnotara koila Prabhu Ram Roy. Sri Chaitanya Mahāprabhu and Ram Roy work like miners, excavating all kinds of valuable jewels, each one better than another. Their questions and answers are exactly like that. So it's an analogy between the questions and answers of getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's like jewels. And that's what sadhu sanga is like as we advance. The questions become deeper and deeper, and the jewels become more and more valuable. I'm just thinking here, some of the nice Vaishnavas that I get to talk to and get to meet, God brothers and devotees. The questions, you're excavating jewels. This is relishable, discussing Krishna-katha. And that's why we always quote the sages of Naimisharanya. So many other, you can do all kinds of religious activities. But sasukam kartam avyayam, bhakti is joyfully performed, because the process of bhakti itself is joyful, because it's love. And love is the only activity that's joyful in itself. Every other activity, the fruit of the activity is joyful. The processes are not joyful. But bhakti itself. And it's so nice. Even we had a, because now I have like, it's more like an ashram. And I always like to make little communities here. So it's the winter people go, it's just down to the basic people that stay here. That's always the best. So I have the courtyard. So they have this Param Supreme Vaishnav caterers. They're real Vaishnavas. And they're so organized and so together. So I just called them up and gave them a menu. not that expensive. I would say maybe $5 a plate. Not bad catering. We ordered for 10. It could feed 20 because they always like to put more. And really expert. And it's so relishable. The Vaishnavas came, Jai Jagannath was here, Manas Goswami, my courtyard, the winter sun, the kirtan, and then the serving of the prasadam, and the devotees exchanging together. It's so nice. Aridina Roy Paishe Vidaya Magila Vidayera Koila E Agyadila. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begged Rāmānanda Roy to give him permission to leave. And at the time of farewell, the Lord gave him the following orders. This relationship between Rāmānanda Roy and Lord Chaitanya is very special. Because you see, Lord Chaitanya is God and he's the devotee. And he kind of takes both roles. But somehow or other, Rāmānanda Roy is not, he's almost like a Siksha guru. Because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, if you want to understand this stuff, you go to Rāmānanda Roy. But at the same sense, he's God. So it's so funny. Lord Chaitanya asks him permission to leave. And then he orders it, gives him this order. Vishayacharya tumi yaha chile ami tirta kari tan asib alpa kale. Alpa kale, very soon. He told them, give up material engagements and come to Puri. I will return there very soon after finishing my tour of pilgrimage. We have duties. As long as we have desires, we have duties. When you have no desires, you don't have any duties. Duties are prescribed for your purification. But if you have no desires, you have no duties, except to serve God fully. So Rāmānanda Roy, he was able to leave everything. And it's not ordinary. Dui jani nilachile rahibi ekashange suke ganaibe karle Krishna-katha range. The two of us shall remain at Jagannath Puri and happily pass the time discussing Krishna-katha. Because that's bhakti. Bhakti is love. So Sri Chaitanya then embraced Sri Rāmānanda Roy, and after sending him back to his home, the Lord took rest. Pratakali ute Prabhu deki Hanuman, Tanre namaskari Prabhu dakshine korile priyan. After rising from bed the next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the local temple with the deity of Hanuman. After offering obeisances, the Lord departed for South India. So Prabhupada said we should serve Hanuman. Because the basis of all relationships is servitude. That's the foundation of all relationships. Conjugal rasa is a mood of service. That's why it's different than lust. It's service. So Hanuman represents that service. Lord Chaitanya took inspiration from Prahlad, Dhruva, Hanuman. The exemplars of different aspects of devotion that can be applied to any relationship, even Lord Chaitanya, who is seeking to have the highest mood of the mellow of devotional service and conjugal love. Still, he would hear from Gadadhar Pandit about Prahlad Maharaj, because of the mood of pure devotional service that Prahlad Maharaj exhibited. That He would make any sacrifice for the Lord and suffer any difficulty in his service. And Dhruva Maharaj, who had that ultimate determination, and Hanuman, who exemplifies the mood of serving your master. So it's great to take inspiration. I know in the morning today, Krishna purified me. I'm lucky I have another spare hearing aids because somehow or other, I don't know, I just lost one somewhere in the Chintamani dust of Vṛndāvana. It's a little anxiety. And then there was a Leela because I wanted to go back to the place where I thought I lost it, but it was locked. So I had to climb at my age under the fence to get in the back way. Because I went and I walked to Govindakund to chant this old ashram. And it was the Goshala, and it was all cow dung. But on my way, there's this Gaudiya Mathya of this one disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta, and he had two disciples, Caitanya and Nitai, and it was just a little thing. And now they built up a beautiful thing with beautiful deities installed by Bhakti Siddhanta. So I went there, and then next to that, there's this guy, I really like him, who's where Hladini Rādhā and Krishna Murari had their wedding. It's a Balaram temple. So it's exciting. Go before the Lord and pray what that manifestation of God has that can inspire you. So Lord Chaitanya offer respects to Hanuman. Vidyapuri Nana Mata Loka Vaishayata Prabhu Darshane Vaishnav Hoila Chari Nija Mata. All the residents of Vidyanagar of different faiths, but after meeting Chaitanya, they abandoned their own faiths and became Vaishnavas. Let me see what they abandoned. Well, it doesn't really say faith. It says Nija Mata, their own minds. So it wasn't talking, that's why it's good to look at the sample. It wasn't talking that they were Catholics and they converted to Krishna, they're Ramanujas, but Nija Mata. They had their own minds. They were speculating on something. So the people of the village, it wasn't that he was converting people who worship God to become Vaishnavas. Nija Mata. Mata means their opinions. They had their own opinions. And our own opinions means how we can enjoy in this world by controlling it. That's their own opinion. And spiritual life is, what does God want? So he converted from that. And that's our conversion. Our conversion is from our own authority on how to be happy by controlling and enjoying the world to God's plan on how we can actually be happy by serving the world. That's God's plan. And that's the shift that a devotee makes. That's our internal struggle right now. God has a plan and we have our own plan. God's plan is very nice because it includes our own desires that are healthy for us. His plan is not that we give up things that we need in Krishna consciousness, but still we have our own plan. And the advanced devotees, their plan is Krishna's plan for them. What is God's plan? And with confidence that what is God's plan and represented in the Shastra and given by Guru and the Vaishnavas. That's what a servant is, kinkari. A gopi means what? What you want, I will do. this shift. So they paila, chari, nijamata. They became devotees by giving up their own opinions, their own plan, their own opinions, their own conceptions of how I will be happy, which means how I can control and enjoy the world. Rāmānanda hoila prabhura vivala prabhura jnane rahi vishaya chariya kariya. When Rāmānanda Roy began to feel separation from a separation from Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he was overwhelmed meditating on the Lord, and he gave up all his material business. Look, he was Rāmānanda Roy. I mean, he was the Devi Dasis he was able to bathe. He was not like an ordinary soul. This was Vishaka. So he was able to do this. He had no duties. Like you get sick, you get a prescription. The prescription shows you're sick. When you're not sick, there's no. So the Vedas gives you prescription. You're like this. This is your body. This is your nature. This is the thing. This is how you become purified. The purpose is the purification. So once you're purified, then you don't necessarily need those duties. But what's the verse? Whatever great man, yad acharate shreshto tadeve tarojana. Whatever great men do, common men follow. So it's not necessarily that one would give up his duties, but they're no longer prescribed. I have briefly described the meeting between Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Rāmānanda Roy. No one can actually describe this meeting exhaustively. It's even impossible for Lord Seshanaga, who has thousands of hoods. The activities of Caitanya Mahaprabhu are like condensed milk, and the activities of Rāmānanda Roy are like large quantities of sugar candy. Their meeting is exactly like a mixture of condensed milk and sugar candy. When they talk of the pastimes of Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa, camphor is added. One who tastes this combined preparation is most fortunate. The wonderful preparation has to be taken orally, A-U, not O-R. Has to be taken orally. If one takes it, he becomes greedy to relish it even further. By hearing the talks between Rāmānanda Roy and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, one becomes enlightened with the transcendental knowledge of the mellows of Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. Thus, one can develop unalloyed love for the lotus feet of Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa. The author requests every reader to hear these talks with faith and without argument. By studying them in this way, one will be able to understand the confidential truth of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This part of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes is most confidential. One can derive benefit quickly only by faith. Otherwise, by arguing, one will always remain far away. He was accepted as everything the lotus feet of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu can attain this transcendental treasure. I offer 10 million obeisances to the lotus feet of Sri Rāmānanda Roy, because from his mouth, much spiritual information has been expanded by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. I've tried to preach the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's meeting with Rāmānanda Roy in accordance with the notebooks of Sri Swarup Damodar. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padiyara Asa Caitanya-caritamrta Kahi Krishna Das. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padiyara As Caitanya-caritamrta Kahi Krishna Das. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padiyara As Caitanya-caritamrta Kahi Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Caitanya-caritamrta, following in their footsteps. So congratulations, everyone. we went through this pastime. We tried to explain it to the best that we could. Thank you, because this is what our life is. Madhyata, madkata prana, bodhiyantas parasparam. Yet madhyata, our consciousness, madhyata, madkata, our path, our goal, madhyata, madkata pranas, our food, our life, bodhiyantas parasparam, enlightening one another. And when that happens, and when this activity is done, it's Krishna is so happy to see the devotees engaged in devotion, rather than all the other things we waste our times with, which is so sad that actually people think devotion is going on the internet and victimizing someone or something. Or it's so sad. I'm in certain conversations with someone I'm trying to help, and just all negativity, thinking that that's devotion. But no, this is devotion. And when this is done, then all other problems, in one sense, get put in the proper perspective. So, and then, as Krishna says in Bhagavatam, Shrinvata Swa Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hidyantasto Yabhadrani Vidanoti Surit Satam. I said it many times, Surit Satam. Surit, close in heart, well-wisher. There's different types of friends. One type of friend in the Sakyaras is Surit. It's kind of like a senior friend. He's a well-wisher. Surit, good heart, close heart. Satam. Krishna is Surit Satam, to the devotee is close in heart. So Srinvata Swaka, when he sees this, Vidanoti, Surit, Vidanoti, he's cleaning the heart. It's a struggle. We've been in this material world since time immemorial. It's a struggle, there's no doubt. But if we hear and keep our focus on the goal, we'll move towards that goal. And then old age will serve our mission rather than take it away. For the materialist, old age destroys their mission. For the spiritualist, old age serves their mission. But we have to come to this platform and have to make a plan during the day and during the year. That's why these retreats are nice. During the week. And then hopefully a time of our lives. So good that you're in Govardhan. So good. Because I'm speaking to someone in my class who lives in Govardhan, has a fiance in Govardhan. It's so good. I always joke that Vṛndāvana is the spiritual world because no one has a job. and therefore people could chant in here. Anyway, I'm, you know me, I'm a little excited being in Govardhan, giving class. We just had such a beautiful function. But I know there are struggles in life. Because why? Because I'm not the controller. Because I'm not the controller, things are not going to move according to my desire. And to the extent that I'm attached to them, I'll suffer. And I'll also suffer. Because now it's so nice here. And today wow, this is so good. And I got up and chanting, and then I go out and I come back and I'm trying to hear something, not hearing. What happened to my hearing aid? I going looking for it. Okay, I have this spare, so I'm okay. And the government will give me another pair, but that's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. Nor will be old age, nor will death, no sickness, no So yeah, that's there. And that's the world. Therefore, we have to make a plan. We have to make a plan. Okay, today was a little bit of a off day for me. I'm a little bit more passionate because that feast it wasn't my sadhu prasad. I ate the same thing every day. Flat rice, a little ghee, spices, some nuts, raisins that I get from the Iranians. And at this time of the year, some guavas. That's the breakfast. And lunch, khichdi, 2 sabjis. We got really good ghee. That's important for me. We know where to get it. But yesterday, that's why I'm like this now. It just was too much. Mostly serving out, but it was okay. Chamunajaya, say hello. I also have another call soon, but anyway. Yeah,
Hello, Maharaj. Thank you so much for class. There were lots of great nuggets, including the Leela of you crawling underneath the fence into cow dung to get your hearing aid was quite enlivening. But I was really appreciating that moment when Rāmānanda Roy says, like, I'm not a Mahatman. I'm just seeing the truth. And I really love that like you say, oftentimes it's like, it's just the truth. He's like, he's taking it off himself. I'm not this great thing. I am simply seeing the truth. I really love that point a lot. As well as the what is a real conversion is not, it's a real conversion of the heart. It's a real conversion of the will. I really love that point as well. Thanks, Maharaj.
Wow, thank you. That's great. Thanks. Good. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Krishnamrita. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you. Many things I heard in a totally different way. And I'm afraid if I try to repeat, it won't be as it was when I was listening to you. So I'm extremely grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here.
Kishori Rādhā, Priya.
Wow, okay. All of you today, great. I guess it's a good Christmas thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, anybody else?
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Thanks for the class.
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Amala, Hare Krishna. Okay. And who else was that? Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Gurudev. Srila
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for the class.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks, Yavid Sundari. There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it, Maharaj. I'm really excited.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Kamala. Thank you so much for class.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Haribo. It's the summer there now, huh? In Argentina?
Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, great. Okay, Haribo. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Amrita Kishori.
Amrita Kishori, what a beautiful name. Haribo.
Haribo.
Great. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Amala. Thank you for class.
Amala Sadhu, you look like you belong here in India, not in Albany.
Soon. Can't wait.
But when I get, I'm going to ask you to see your passport. I'm going to rip it up so you can't leave.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Well, Govinda.
And Vraja, thank you for class.
Thanks for class.
Wow. See you soon, Lal.
Or
Don't spend too much time away. You have many important things to do in New Jersey.
my passport will get ripped up, huh?
What? I'm afraid. I would be afraid. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to head out now. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindu bheva cha patitanam pavane pyo